It's 10 o'clock. It's time. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us this morning for CAMWorks What's New 2013. I'm going to try to, I know that everybody have a lot of stuff to do and is busy and stuff like that. So I'm going to try to jump through it as quick as I can. Let's try to talk you guys to sleep. Just to jump into this quickly here, you can see, hopefully everyone can see my screen here. You do have my my email address down here, so any questions or anything, that would definitely be the easiest way. There is also here a chat that we can do after the kind of like went through what we have here, but my email address is probably the easiest way to get a hold of me when it comes to this. So we kind of like waited to do the CAMWorks What's New till the summertime, because I know that a lot of you guys, this is where things maybe slow down a little bit and stuff like that with the summer vacations. CAMWorks just did release Service Pack 2, so if you don't have that one, then I would definitely go out and grab it. You will see that CAMWorks got a new website. I'm still trying to find my way around it a little bit, but they did come out with a new website. Let me just, if you go to camworks.com, oops, if you can type camworks.com, you will see that they came out with a new nice look of this here. And also, just as a resource, don't forget about the forum. The CAMWorks forum is actually pretty good. There's some pretty smart people out there helping out and stuff like that too. So that's definitely a resource. Also, before we jump right into SOLIDWORKS and into CAMWorks, if you guys haven't realized, when you download CAMWorks, and I just unzip the download package here, they kind of like included a couple of new things in here. You will see that there's a CAMWorks view, and the CAMWorks view is actually also what will show up on your desktop as Glovius. And I don't know if anybody who have already installed this saw this Glovius, and if you even open it up, you might be looking at this and thinking, what the heck is this? This is the same as what in the installation folder is called CAMWorks View. Some of you guys familiar with e-drawings. CAMWorks is owned by a company called Geometric. And Geometric is actually the ones that is developing e-drawings for SOLIDWORKS. So this is kind of like the same thing. I'm going to show you in a couple of seconds here what Glovius actually did. There is also something called CAMWorks X Connect that you can install. So if you double click on the folder here, you will see you can install this. Now what Connect does is that it actually gives you processing time on the cloud. I'm not going to show it today, but if you do process huge tool paths, if you do a lot of complex mold, 5-axis machining, or anything like that, where your processing really becomes a huge part of your day, sitting there cranking data, you can actually now do it on the cloud. So it's a whole other thing. It's a neat thing, and if it's something that you are seeing from time to time, send me an email at Lars at Cat Dimensions, and we can talk a little bit more about it. You will also see that they now have included the license manager in the direct installations. That's kind of nice. You don't have to go out and grab that anymore, so that's kind of neat too. The license manager did get a new function in here. If I just go out, I know some of you guys, if I open it up here, would like, is that in the license manager you can now, if you do use a hardware dongle instead of the Flex license, you can now update it from right in here. So a couple of you guys I know are on those hardware dongles, so you can move from machine to machine. Just so you know that that is in the new license manager. So if you're not already using it, then I would definitely go ahead and do that. So let's jump back into this here. So I just kind of like I said, I'm going to try to keep this kind of like condensed the best I can, not waste too much time. So I kind of like made 3 topics. So I wanted to show what is new and improved in the user interface. A lot of these things that kind of like suits to everybody. Then there's a couple of new mill things, and then also the turn and the mill turn. I kind of like combine those two. And then there's also a few new things in the wire EDM, but nobody that of our customers is using my IDM and signed up, so I kind of like left that out of that. I want to show you though that if we jump over to the SolidWorks aspect of it here, and you have your CAMWorks add-on turned on, that if you go to the help and go to CAMWorks, in here there is a what's new, and this is where you will find a lot of the things that I'm going to show today. So if you want to get further into the depth of stuff, then go and open up that PDF document, and you will find a lot of the things in there. Also things that have been fixed over the different versions here. So kind of like the idea behind this would be to let's talk about what's new and improved in the interface here. So back into SolidWorks, that's where all the fun is, and I'm just going to open up one of these. I've already pinned a document here, and I haven't really prepared much. I was kind of like just planning on throwing on the toolpath as we're going, just because I know that we have people looking at this from a couple of different scenarios. So I thought it would make sense to just kind of like throw everything on there. So we have this little part here, SolidWorks part with some different patterns and stuff like that. This was actually set up as a turn part. I'm just going to hit the extract machinable features up here, and I am running CAMWorks right. I wiped the installation yesterday and threw a new installation in last night. So I'm running blank database and everything. So we find here, we get it found some different features here. I'm just going to take the OD because I'm not really care about the cutoff, and I don't have any stock, so I don't have any phasing operation generated. So one of the things here when we click here, first of all, so we just quickly processed those and found the roughing tool path and the turning tool path here. One of the things, we're going to come back to this a little bit later when we're talking turn and mill turn, but you can already see that it's something changed here with the chuck is showing up here pretty quickly. But in the interface, you will actually see that we now also have a CAMWorks workflow tab. So we have the two tabs here. We used to only have one command manager. I'm still using this one here, but there's actually a workflow where CAMWorks kind of like set it up in the order of ways that you maybe would do different things. But just like you maybe know from previous version, if you right-click on these tabs here, you can turn these different ones on and off if you want to. You also do have the options to customize these with, just like you can do with all the SolidWorks ones if you want to do that. But they added that new workflow tab up here. It's kind of, just need to know. Now, we have been able to publish the e-drawings from CAMWorks for a few years. So e-drawings comes with SolidWorks, right? Well, again, like I said before, Geometric actually does all the development for e-drawings. So what we've been able to do with this one here, with the published e-drawing, is to also show our toolpath. But with this new CAMWorks viewer, or the Globius, as I pointed out before, what we actually get is if we right-click on a processed operation up here, we get the publish to e-drawing. But now we can publish to the CAMWorks view file. And what that will do is it will create this file here and open up Globius. And you will see this is the first, the first version of this. So I'm sure that they're going to develop this over the years. But what is really neat about this Globius, and a little bit different than the e-drawing publishing, is that it actually gives us a little tree over here with the different functions, a little bit more easier to turn on and off. So I can turn the stock off, for example. So I can turn that on and off. And you can turn off the different finished parts. You can go into the different operations in here, show the work in progress, or showing the tool path and the finishing tool path, turning these different things off. This one comes in different versions. So there is a website for Globius where you can kind of like see the different versions you can get. And it opens up all different kinds of work files. So it's kind of like e-drawings in a little bit different aspect, maybe a little bit more CAMWorks related or more toolpath related. And this definitely could be a great thing to if you got to send things out on the shop floor. As you can see, it comes with different versions with the measure and stuff like that. I was actually talking to one of the CAMWorks people yesterday, and he was talking about how he kind of like have a vision about maybe be able to play backplot through it, your toolpath and stuff like that. So I definitely think that that's an interesting one. So if you see that Globius, out on your desktop, that's what that is for. So you can have that CAMWorks viewer file showing up there. So kind of neat stuff with that. Let me just open up another file here. So I'm just going to open up this little milling file here. Another thing that is kind of neat here with CAMWorks, like I said, they've really tried to, I think, throw some neat things in. It definitely looks like that some of the things that they've thrown in this release here is customer as requests. So this part here, I'm just going to go in and do this manually before I hit the extract machine build feature. But this case here, I'm just going to right-click, insert a mill part setup on this face here, and I'm just going to do that center pocket there. So let's just insert a 2.5 axis feature. Select the bottom of that face, up to that face, and there we have our tool path. A new thing that they've done, and this got to be one of my favorites, I think, is up here we've always had this step-through toolpath or backplot or whatever you want to call it that kind of like popped up as a little window. Well, this version here, they have actually integrated into the command manager inside of SolidWorks. So it's a little bit more SolidWorks-like. But they have also added some new functions to it. First of all, if we just kind of like work from the top down, if we click here on the end, you can see here I can choose, just like we can do in the simulate toolpath, where I want to go to. I can control the speed of it. I can step through the stepping here, or I can hit play. Now you will also see that this here have gotten a little bit more crisp. So they kind of like worked a little bit on the graphics here too. I think one of my favorites with this one is down here though, positioning. So I can actually grab this bar with my left mouse button, and I can actually move through the different sections here of my back plot here. So you can see here my cutter here. I can go down here, I can turn the cutter off, of course. So what I have here is actually a control bar where I can fast forwarding back and forth through my different positions. So that's really nice. But on top of that, if we go further down, I can also control these blue lines that kind of like specify the tool path. So I can go in here and do from the start, and you will kind of like see, or to the whole tool path, you will kind of like see all the blue lines. But what I really think is neat is the number of moves, and I can control these here. So if I go in here and say 10, and maybe make this one 2, when I step through here, you will see that I will get the next 10 forwards move and the 2 last move trailing behind it. This can really be nice when you're trying to get close in to a tool path and try to find out, you know, what is it doing exactly. Sometimes you're kind of like, let me just go back and see what the heck is it doing when it enters that corner or something like that. So I think this is really nice. This whole step-through toolpath to me have become like a little bit more like a troubleshooting, or let's get into depth and looking at things. You will also see further down that they actually gave us a bunch of information, such as the length of the toolpath. That gives you actually the feed rates, pulling this right out of, you know, what are we running this tool with? Do we have any rotation angles? And also the name down here, operations, and time, and toolpath length. So they kind of like added all this into the step through. So I really think that they've done a nice job with the step through here, kind of like giving us that, you know, quick tool we can go through that with. So that's, I think, is a neat thing. Now, another thing that they have done is, and this again, I think is trying to make things easier for us, is accessing our technology database. So like most of you guys know, the technology database is kind of like the heart, right, of where we have all our data. And we can access it from up here, or we could also go to our drop down here and access it over here. Some of you guys know that we can actually also go into a specific operation, and if we double click on it and opening up here, if we go into feature option, it's down here too. Well, new for 2013 is if you're out here in the tree and you hit the little plus sign, you can actually right click on an operation and get to it right here. This is definitely one of the ones that I got to remember to do, because that's a quick way to get to it. Many times You just want to go in there and work with that. So I thought that that was a kind of like a neat thing that they have added in there. Another thing that they have done that is new for 2013 is that they have actually given us, well, they've done a couple of new things. They've given us another tab over here called Station, but I'm going to come back to that in a second. But they have also now given us tool sub numbers. So this is definitely one of these user request things that your tool station can now have a sub number on it. Excuse me, I'm not sure how many of our customers is using this. But you can actually now put like 52.01 if that's what you want in there. It is it's actually, you can turn it on and off through your technology database. So if we go into the technology database here and we go into your machine, you will see that it is an option that under turret. You can turn the tool crib substation on here, and it's controlled through your tool crib. So if you go, oops, I should have gone out of that. If you go into your tool crib, you will see that tool crib. You will see that the sub numbers are controlled in here. So so they did that. It also needs, of course, your post needs to be looked at this. This is one of those things. If some of your machines do this sub tool numbers, you know, reach out to us, and one of our AEs can definitely help you, getting that process in there. So that's a neat thing, and definitely something that is customer request. Now, one of the other things that you maybe saw happen was that when I go up here over my stock manager, you see how stock appears. Now, this is a new thing too in 2013, and really neat. This is kind of like a solid block. They have added these stock display here. Really helpful when you're working. If I right-click on my stock manager, you can go into display, and you can kind of like select if you want the wireframe. This is what we normally get when we're inside of the stock manager. You can actually also do what I think is my favorite, the transloctan. You can see that. So you can kind of like see what size stock you have on the fly. As soon as you hover over that, if you click on an operation, it goes away, and if you just hover over your stock manager, there it appears. This can be really helpful when you're working in different environments. Like if I go into my stock manager, and many times you might have a part that went through a lathe operation first, now coming over to the mill, or maybe it's a casting or something like that. I created a STL file here. If I turn an STL file on in stock, don't forget that you can do that. If you have different operations, you can kind of like save them out. You will now see that actually my stock here, you will see that the holes have been drilled through, and also I kind of like get that transloctan here. So this is a neat way you can very quickly see what your stock boundaries are. If I go in here to my stock, if I just do a standard boundary box again, and I maybe add some material to the end out here, well, when I'm in my programming stage where I'm programming, just by going up here, I just get that quick preview and don't have to go back in and out. So I really think this was one of the nice things they added. Now, of course, we do still have the toolpath simulation up here, and I'm still using that for most of my stuff when it comes to machining stuff, right? You can go in here and you can machine that. Now, again, you will also see that holders and tools have gotten more crisp in here too. They kind of like changed that graphic scenario. Also, not new for 2013, but don't forget that if we exit out of the simulation toolpath, that in the options over here under display, we can actually change a lot of these appearances. You can change your stock color so it becomes dark if you want it to be dark. And now when I go in and simulate it, it's a little darker in here. You can change the backgrounds and stuff like that. Don't forget that you can set these things up to what you kind of like feel looks good. You can change the appearance between a roughing operation and finishing operation and stuff like that. Another thing for 2013 that they have added in here, like I said, it looks a little crisper. They have actually also added advanced rendering using the real view that we have inside of SolidWorks. What that does, if you turn that on, is it gives us a little bit more like a real look to it, right? That's a little bit more, how maybe we'll look out of the floor. It's going to use those appearances, those environments. This is really good. I've used this a couple of times on a finished part just to kind of like get that, how would it really look out there with a finish. Though that I have to admit that for me, when I do my normal verification, because normally when we're doing the verification, we're really looking not for real life, but more for, is things, is things looking the way we kind of like want it to look, and where you want to use like the compares and stuff like that. That I still like the original kind of like environment here. But that real view really does look great, and something to be aware of, and play around with those different colors and stuff like that. I really think that makes a big difference. Another thing, you saw it for a second ago, I was talking about that we actually got on our tool tab over here, we now on the milling side, just like in the turning side, have this station. And what this gives us is a really nice way to add some better comments. If you have operators out there, give us some different information, another tab to put some of this information into. So I really think that this is a nice thing. And you will see that is, kind of like resembling to also what we have on our turning side over here. If I go into a turning operation, you will see over here that we have the same thing. So they're kind of like taking, one thing, if something works on one area, let's get it over to the other one too. So I really thought that was a neat thing. So they've done some nice stuff with that, with the appearances. Really made it a lot nicer to look at, and done some neat things with the tool numbering and stuff like that. Another thing I want to show you that they borrowed this from SolidWorks, I think. If you go to your Start menu and you go into All Programs and you find your CAMWorks folder, and in here you now have a CAMWorks copy settings. Some of you guys might be familiar with this from SolidWorks, have a copy setting wizard. Pretty much what you can do here is when you've customized your menus, you've gotten everything the way you want, and I encourage everybody to try to play around with this a little bit. Anybody sit through any of my training classes, I always say, when there's 5 minutes to lunch and you can't leave because somebody was complaining about you going to lunch early, this is really a good opportunity to play around with certain things. And if you're customizing your menus and stuff like that, CAMWorks now gives you an option to save out these files. So, if you have to reset your machine or something like that, you can bring your settings back in again. So this is another really neat thing that they've added in here. In SolidWorks, it's called Copy Setting Wizard. It's found in just about the same area. All programs, but instead of going into CAMWorks, you will go into your SolidWorks installation, and in your SolidWorks tools, it's sitting right here called Copy Setting Wizard. It does the same thing. It saves out your registry settings for all your customized menus up here, and then you have those. So you can really set things up to really be kind of like automated like that. So on the the interface, the user interface, I think that they did some nice things. The backplot or step through, I really think is powerful. That we now can go backwards, forwards, and really gives you a good opportunity to move through that. Really giving you what I think is a faster and an easier way to kind of like working with this. So some nice improvements when it comes to that kind of stuff. Next thing I wanted to talk about a few of the things on the milling side that have been added in there. So let me jump back into SolidWorks here, and let's jump back to that file we had before in here. Now let me just create a little slot here. So I'm just going to go over on the SolidWorks side, and I'm going to open up a new sketch here. Let me just do the S key so we get the little menu up here. Try to be a little efficient. And I'm going to make this one 3 inches long, and I'll maybe make this one, I don't know, make it a narrow little slot here. And let me just cut it through here. We'll turn that into a little cut. So we have this little slot here. Let's machine this little slot. And for this little slot we have here, I am going to just insert another manual toolpath. By the way, So now I made a modification to a part. This is one of the neat things about CAMWorks, right? It realizes that we made a change. Bing, it comes up and says, hey, what do you want to do with this? Now, a couple of customers have asked me in the past, but what does it really mean? Don't forget, we got help. CAMWorks, just like SolidWorks, I think it does a phenomenal job with the help, and I use it a lot, read the help and stuff like that. But pretty much, if we hit full at this point, we're just going to literally go in and use the extract machinable features, and it's going to revamp everything we have in there. The light one in here, it says that we're recognizing that there's some changes, but it's not going to affect what we want or cancel. Light would be your preference normally. It's just going to go in, it's just going to analyze everything, it's going to kind of like rebuild what we normally see. And it's not going to generate anything of our tool path, but it's just going to see that there. So just another little tip here. All right, so I'm going to machine this slot. So I'm going to do what I did before. I'm going to right-click, insert 2.5 axis feature. This is going to be a pocket here, so I'm going to select the bottom of it. Next, up to the top of this one here, so I get the full depth. I am not going to do a rough and a finish, though. I'm just going to do a finishing operation here, and hit finish. What I want to show you is something new they have done with the lead in, lead out. So let me just generate this here, and it throws in a very small tool through the technology database. We definitely want to change that to something a little bit more real here. All right, do this here. Now, if I go to lead in, lead out, and I put in an arc move here, let's do that, and let's process it. Let's simulate it, and let me just turn my holder off so we don't see the holder. And oops, we only want the slot we just created. So now it's going to go in here and machine this here, and remove this part here. And I might have a little bit of okay, it's going to go down and do the bottom here. I made that slot a little deep, didn't I? Let's just go in here and make these a little bit smaller. I'm running out of flute length. What happens when you do it on the fly? All right, so when I simulate this here, and we're playing through here, we will see that we're going in here and machining this slot here. And one of the things you will see that happens with my lead in, lead out is this is not really going to work really well, because my lead in, lead out, well, as you can see here, when I stop and pause this, and I do a compare, we will see that this is not good, right? Your lead in, lead out is literally cutting stock that this is not supposed to cut. New for CAMWorks in 2013, and my graphics working a little bit here. Go to meeting, I apologize. New for 2013 in your lead in, lead out option is, when we go to lead in, lead out, is that there's now a gauge check right here. And if you click on that, you will actually see that your lead in, lead out will adjust to not do that. You see that? You saw how it changed? So it will literally automatically try to stay away from anything like that. So that's a new little neat feature. You can see how my lead in, out have changed because CAMWorks is saying I cannot gouge this part. You know, this is again one of these really neat things that you know, they can put in there again because we are inside of SolidWorks. We have this solid environment. We can do that stuff. So I think that this is really that's a neat little feature. Again, it's right in your lead in, lead out page. So they just made it a little check mark that you can turn on and off, because I know that sometimes people don't want it on just because you know, people doing, you know, some special stuff and stuff like that. The other thing they have done is they have added on some new rest milling stuff. And rest milling, let me open up another part. Rest milling is one of these interesting things that, geez, I remember when we didn't have rest milling. You roughed out a part and then you had to go in and finishing a part, and a lot of you guys remember that you now had to go in and create extra lines and arcs and tool path and stuff like that to try to make things work. Well, then rest milling came, and And you know, again, because we are inside the solid environment, and CAMWorks was right on the one of the first one to be part of this, they have done some nice job with it. So let me just do another pocket here, and let's insert this 2.5 axis on here. That's good. To this face, and we're going to do a rough and a finish. Let's see what the technology database pulls out here. I probably have to do a couple of adjustments on 1/2 inch, and let's make this one 1/2 inch too in here, just for the heck of it, just to show what we kind of like can come up with here. So here we have the roughing and the finish, right, on this pocket here. And if I simulate these, we will see that we're going to rough out the pocket here first, like this here, and this looks pretty good here. But if I go in and I make the cutter bigger, because it actually comes around this slot here, let's change the cutter size. This one here, now it's not going to machine all the way through there, and if I decide to use the same one on my finishing cutter, we will definitely be left with some material. But actually, I also want to increase a little bit of fluid length here, I think. All right. Now, there's a little bit big cutter for this, but to make the point, you know, you insert a roughing toolpath like this, and you end up with something like this finished up. And if we do a compare, we clearly can see that we have materials in the corners, we have materials left over here, and like I said before, in the olden days, that was when you suddenly had to start creating your geometry and stuff like that. With CAMWorks, you can, you know, I'm just going to hold down Control. I don't know how many people do that. You can actually copy operation and drag them around just like you can inside SolidWorks. If I go in here to this operation that I just copied here, and I change this to maybe a 1/4 inch or something else like that, on your contour tab here, there is rest machining. And it's set to none right now, but if I go in here and it says previous tool, you will see that it will go in and look at a previous tool in here and see. You can override the values and stuff like that. But this will behave now as a cleanup toolpath. So if I just generate this here, we will now see that my screen blanks out because of GoToMeeting here. But we will see that it will generate those rest milling parameters for that, and just only clean up, right, the corners that is needed, and of course also that little space in there. So that's really one of the nice things that the rest machining. But on top of that, they have actually you can, you know, CAMWorks knows that many times a lot of you guys do things that is a little bit out of the ordinary. You sometimes have to. You can actually use rest milling even without having a previous operation, and now, you know, you're kind of like thinking, well, that really doesn't follow up what rest milling really does, because rest milling is supposed to clean up from the previous toolpath, and that is true. But if you change this to a finishing toolpath, then it will actually, of course, only insert our finishing toolpath here. But rest milling actually still works, and you can still go in here and you can override things. So you could actually go in here and say that, you know, that let's say you have a rework or something like that, and you could go in and say that you had an end mill before, already been in there, that was a 1/2 inch, and now you want to change these parameters, and now it will pretend like that there was a previous tool there before. So again, you can see here I put in that it has a 1/2 inch end mill was in there. With a 1/2 inch end mill, it knows that that would have been cleaned up there. But if I go in and I change this to what we actually originally had in there as a 750, you will see that the software is clever enough to see that and know that and make the adjustment for it. Only one toolpath. There was nothing previous. But the software is smart enough to know that something should have been there or pretend that something had been in there. So this is definitely one of those things that is very, very powerful. Another thing I wanted to just quickly throw in there, I'm not planning on showing it here, but that is that they have actually also done some stuff with machining STL files. Some customers who get stuff from scanned material that is STLs, and you will know that they have actually added that in there too. Another thing I wanted to show was on the 3-axis toolpath, they have actually changed the look at your multi-surface feature interface too. Just so you know, if you click on that, it was put over in this window a few years ago. But what they have done now is they have clicked it into 3 different areas. They have done faces and surfaces. This is where you select what surface you want to machine. My favorite is all displayed, that pretty much pick everything. You will also see that when it comes to strategies that they finally cleaned this down a little bit. This is thanks to one of CAMWorks guys, Andy Hall, who did a lot of work with the technology database, kind of like condensed these strategies down to a little bit more usable things. So they put some new work into the technology database. If you're doing 3-axis machining, this is definitely something that you want to check into. And like I said before, you can actually now do 3-axis stuff on that. So that is neat to know. Also, if you are doing 3-axis machining, you many times will do you will actually do avoid contain areas. The void contain areas have gotten some new functions too, just so you're aware of it. So I'm just gonna, I know there's nothing swoopy on this part here. I've just applied a pattern project on it here, just so we can take a look at it though. The avoid contain area, this works for 2.5-axis too. Avoid contain area is great for like if you have any clamps selected and stuff like that. But if you right click here and you go in and say avoid contain area, the menu in here have changed a little bit, and what they have done is they've actually given you directions in here. So if you had an island on the center of this part in here, you could actually control the CAMWorks going to machine down to the top of that island, or if you had like a screw holding this part down or something like that, you could use that to a certain depth. So it could actually pocket down to right above the head of the screw and then go down. So just so you're aware of that, the new avoid areas have gotten done some new stuff with it, and this is really really sweet here too. So so some neat stuff when it comes to do that. The last thing I want to show on the mill, because I wanted to keep this short, I'm still going to show the lathe. The last thing I want to show on the mill is if you go into a milling operation, they have actually also made user holders more easier to select. So you will see here I'm using a standard milling holder here, right? That's the default. But check this out. If I go in here and do a user defined, I can browse to a user defined if I have one, and I did. Let me just go in here. So I have a Cat 40 that I've created here. And this is just revolved inside of SolidWorks. Actually, if you're interested in this file, I'll send it to you. So now, and again, this actually works on our step through too. So you can actually see it on your step through that Cat 40. That can really be nice when it comes to collision control and stuff like that, right? That you can actually see your holders here. So if I go in here now and say that I want to step through with this holder, we will now see, if I turn it on, you will now see that we get that Cat 40 holder that I modeled up in SolidWorks, and that is now part of my operation. I think this is really, really powerful. There's a couple of other things inside of the milling that they have added in there. but I really think that that they have added some neat stuff with that. The correct lead in, lead out. I have been guilty of that before, right? And then rest milling is definitely one of those things that I think that a lot of us really like to use. So again, I think that they've added some new and neat stuff on the milling purpose, and again, faster and easier, right? It's making our life easier, better to work with and stuff like that. Last thing here, new and improved on the turn and the mill turns. I know some people don't do only do mill, but they really did some neat things. So stick on here just to see really where the technology is going here with CAMWorks and how CAMWorks, really are paying attention to some of their customers. If we jump back to that file, first file we had over here, here's one thing that some of the mill turn people is going to be happy about. And that is, let's see if I make the switch here to my wrong part, to this one. Oh, come on. Thank you. Some of you guys have tried this before. Actually, this is Service Pack 2, so you got to get Service Pack 2 to do this work. You do something like a turning operation, and then you're realizing that it's going to run on the mill turn machine. Well, new for 2013, if you have a turning or actually milling, and you switch your machine over to a mill turn, then it does not delete everything, wipe it all out, and throw it out. It actually does take that tool path with you. Well, it don't take the operations with it, but what it does take is it takes the features. So if you've already inserted all these things, then that's one of the things that it brings over. So you don't lose what you've already generated and stuff like that. This is, again, one of these use of request things for sure that people, they created something in a turning machine and found out that they had to run it on the mill turn and they lost everything. But now you will see that it actually brings those over. So that's really, really nice here. Since I'm in a mill turn, I can, of course, hit the extract machinable features, and it will also go in and find some of the milling functions in here. And stuff like that. But what CAMWorks have been working on when it comes to the turn and the mill turn have been a lot of sub-spindle and turret selection. So a lot of this stuff in the past have been done via post, and that can actually still be done. They haven't taken that out, but they've added a couple of new features that I think is worth bringing up here. If I'm processing this turning tool path here into an operation, you will see that I get a CAMWorks Sync Manager. Now this is an add-on, so this does have a price with it, but just if you ever doing anything with multiple, when you need to sync things up, well, here's your answer right in here. So you can do this as a user-defined or as a sequence in here, depending on how you set it up. Now, of course, your machine has to support front and rear turrets. You might also decide that you want to insert those. So let me just insert. That's so easy in here, right? You insert a turn. I want to flip it the other way, and now suddenly I got, a third turret versus my first turret in here, right? We could take an operation and copy it down here, bring it down to our other turret. You guys know how we can go in here and we can change, the different sections in here, delete the different lines out of it we want. So maybe just to make it a little bit different than the first one, I'm going to delete these two out of this one, and out of this one here, I'm going to delete what I will be holding in that end, like that. So now we actually have two different turrets set up here. Right, there's a front and a rear turret. What is really neat here, right? You'll see the rear turret here, and we'll see the other turret here. So CAMWorks gotten all this in. If I bring over my Sync Manager again here, you can take these, you can drag them back and forth. You can go into user defined in here, and you can select multiple of them under the user defined. You can insert these waiting points and stuff like that if you want to. Really neat stuff here. Let me just process these. So really, they have done some really nice work with these sync operations in here for that. Let me just reset this. Okay, so you can do that. You also have a timing line up here. If you go to the next tab, you can zoom in and out. So you can really get in and see what the different turrets are running at whatever point you want them in there. Change it over to turret. And we can now take operations here. We can drag them over like this. Like I said before, we can insert these weight codes in here manually and stuff like that if you want that. And now we will see we get the different timing selection in here. So this is really, really neat. Like I said, this is a new or a cost to get this option in here, but really sweet looking sync manager in here. You can also set the different weight codes in here and stuff like that too, just so you're aware of that. Another thing is with shop spindles. So the shop spindles, that's not, we've been able to do that through our post. You can still do that, but they have actually added another little function here that you can purchase where they kind of like have a little templates. You can create your own templates also, but where we can go in here, opening up these, they will give you a little menu here with when you want the spindle off and set these different codes in here for doing your different stuff here. So this is all new stuff that you can insert in here. Again, if you're interested in this, definitely let us know. We will be more than happy to talk to you about how we can get all this set up. Of course, all this stuff will also mean that you need to get your post altered and stuff like that. But we'll figure all that out. So another thing you maybe have seen at this point is also that I actually have my chocks look a little bit different. So they actually did some new stuff with that too. You can see here when you're selecting where your stock goes, you will see that you can actually select different things in here from where they get placed. In the past, it was a little bit more clicking out and it was a little clunky, so they have changed some of that stuff. Also, if you go to your machine, you actually have a whole setup for your chunks over here. And this is really neat. So if you have multiple, you can specify this distance in here. Rotation angles can be put in here, stuff like that if that is important. And of course, if you hit the edit here, you actually get this whole new interface. This is one of my favorites over here, where you can actually go in and select the different chunks that you want in here. You can go down here and you can completely change how many steps you want, the number of jaws and stuff like that. You can see how it's changing depending on what kind of jaws you have, where it's located, the ID versus the OD. So they give you full over here when it comes to these here. So the chocks have become a lot better, I think, when it comes to use these. And of course they show up in your verification and stuff like that. And if you have multiple chocks in here, they will of course also show up on the other side too. So it's fully going in there with that too. It's really neat stuff, I think. Last thing I want to show, two things I want to show. I'm going to hit on myself. Another thing on the turn side that I think is really exciting is that they now have letting us, we can now use open sketches to turn. So this happened to me a couple of times where you have a part like this. I'm over on the SolidWorks side. Let's just open up a sketch on the front face here. This has happened to me where I just want to kind of like get a certain area turn, right? Rework or change the part. Convert entities in SolidWorks, and you can really go in here if I just select these two edges here. So that's sketch number 8. And now in 2013, all I have to do on my turn setup, let's go ahead and say I want to turn set a turn feature. I can now select that open sketch. There was only 2 lines, and that's all I have to do. And I now have a turn feature for that, just that operation right there. So really neat that they have applied that, I think, in here for that. So we can insert that. Now I already have some stock remove, so it's not going to process. Let's move it on top of that. Again, one of the neat things about CAMWorks, you can drag and drop operations, right? And again, also in here, the step through toolpath, it's using that too. So just so you're aware. So even, it's not just mill. In here too, we can go in here, we can control it on the arm going back and forth. This is really, really nice. So I think that they've done a really nice job with that. Lastly, I also wanted to show you that another thing that I've added in 2013 for Turn that is nice is that we now have an offset page in here. So we can do the work coordinate system and stuff like that with our turning thing. So that's another nice thing that they've added. And the next is just like in the middle, you double click on the turn setup and you get that page up. So again, I think that they really did some nice stuff with the turning too. I mean, the sync manager is really, really powerful, sub-spindle, but also the charts. I mean, this is one of these things. When you're verifying stuff, you want to be able to see that kind of stuff, right? So again, I think they really made it faster and easier. So I think they did a really nice job with overall with the interface. I think they did some really nice stuff for that, both the milling, the turning, and the mill turn. And like I said, also, the YADM. I just want to show this slide here. CAMWorks does do a lot of stuff, right? We have, of course, the milling, up to 5-axis. We do high-speed milling. We got the volume mill package. Electrodes, if you do electrodes, right? We got ElectroWorks, and they do a lot of nice stuff with the whole CAMWorks package. I just decided to break it down to the 3 here. Also, this is kind of like a fun slide to show just some of the customers that is using CAMWorks out there. There's anybody like cars. There's the racing teams out there. Of course, any of our service members, and even Google is in there. So some neat stuff with that. Again, any of this stuff that I've shown is not really magic hidden away. If you go into Help and you go into CAMWorks and you go into What's New, you will find the whole What's New document. Like I said, I kind of like picked some of my favorites out of here. I wanted to keep it under an hour, but definitely worth checking out too. And like I said, this Service Pack 2 just came out. It's definitely a stable version to check out, and CAMWorks is really, they're cruising along with a lot of good stuff in there. So I really hope that you guys got something good out of this. And again, any questions, you're more than welcome to throw them into the chat section here, question section in here, if you have any questions. Also, please feel free to email me at lars@catdimensions.com, and I'll get back to you. One of our other support AEs will get back to you. But really neat stuff. CAMWorks 2013, I think it's exciting. CAMWorks is definitely doing a lot of neat stuff, and we're the first certified gold members, and I think it shows because they do a lot of stuff, and that's why we at Cat Dimensions, of course, using them, because we think that they are the one that is most integrated. So everybody, thank you so much for sitting with me here. I kept it under an hour. That was the plan. I hope you guys saw some really good stuff. This is being recorded. So we will put it up on our website. So again, lars@catdimensions.com. If you want to get the link for it, or you can go to catdimensions.com and find the videos in there. So again, everybody, thank you so much, and I hope that I will sit around if there's a few questions. But if not, then again, thank you.